Chet Green. Charles Max Fernandez. Arthur Nibbs. Lennox Weston. Colin James. Samantha Marshall. And Prime Minister and a leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, Gaston A. Brown. Our candidates and leader. Kindly remain standing for the singing of the national anthem of Antigua and Barbuda by Miss Suzetta Hamilton, followed by prayer of thanksgiving by Major Nana Ajiman.
Fair Antigua and Barbuda, we thy sons and daughters stand, strong and firm in peace or danger, to safeguard our native land. We commit ourselves to building a true nation, brave and free, ever striving, ever seeking, dwell in love and unity. Thank you.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we recognize you as the sovereign ruler of all nations and governor of all people. Your word tells us that righteousness exalts a nation. That is why in all our human affairs, we acknowledge you. You are God. And your people rejoice in knowing that our island of Antigua and Barbuda serve the great, wonderful God. You have prospered us. You have watched over us. You have guided us in all matters relating to our nation and our people. And we thank you, Lord. Father Almighty, we pray that this vision that will be shared with your people will be a vision that will address the plight of the poor and vulnerable. So, Lord, that though not all may be rich, but none should be poor in this nation. May there be the platform, Lord, created so that people in this land will find joy, peace, prosperity, and a place that they call a happy home, Antigua and Barbuda. We also pray, Lord, that the platform will be created so that privileges will be given to youth of this nation to utilize their gifts, their skills, and so develop to their fullest potential. In so doing, we know that, Lord, by your grace, you will guarantee sustainable development and growth of this nation. Now, Lord, may your favor rest upon your people. For I pray and bless them in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Good morning once again. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, the Honorable Gaston A. Brown, and his 16 other candidates of the ABLP in the upcoming general elections. I also recognize you, our specially invited guests, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning once again, and welcome to this very important ceremony. Important because at one time or another, each one of us in this room will be affected by the contents of the document we are here to launch today, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party Manifesto for election 2018. It is the most important document for any political party and the people of any nation. It is the contract with you, the people. The Gaston Brown administration has an excellent track record in fulfilling the promises to you, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, made in its manifesto. The document today will be the groundwork and the guiding force to continue the rebuilding of Antigua and Barbuda, together with you, the people. It is the ABLP's contract with you. Vision 2023 and beyond. Tasked with ensuring that this vision is lived up by the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party is its chairman. It is therefore my pleasure at this time to invite to the podium the chairman of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, the Honorable E.P. Chet Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and the other candidates here seated. I also recognize the presence of two giants of the Labour Party and trade union movement in the persons of Sir John Eugene St. Louis, and might I be presumptuous to suggest, soon to be, Sir Hugh Marshall. I also recognize with us this morning members of the diplomatic corps, party officials, business officials, the media, and welcome you all to this very important exercise, the launch of what is easily going to be, and you can mark the time and date on your watches, the most important document to be released in Antigua and Barbuda in 2018 as we head into general elections. I thank you all very much for joining us this morning as we launch the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party's manifesto for the 2018 general elections. As chairman of this glorious organization, I believe that our manifesto, entitled Agenda 2023 and Beyond, is the most comprehensive and enlightening in our country's political history. It deals with, but is not limited to, the accomplishments of the ABLP administration for the just under 4 years that we've been in office. You know that before we attained office in June of 2014, that our country wasn't in economic turmoil. Many of you in this very audience will have watched or seen your businesses decline right before your eyes. You know that unemployment in our country rose to up to 30% or more. You know that cars and homes were foreclosed by the banks, and that there was even difficulties maintaining the unit called the family. The banks had no choice. There was a decline of more than 21% in the GDP of our country, which in raw terms translates to about $800 million in value being lost. You also know that the banking sector faced a crisis, one hitherto unknown, mostly from the collapse of the ABLP Bank, and that collapse threatened a contagion throughout not only the local banking sector, but throughout the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. All of this took place under the incompetence and ineptitude of a UPP Minister of Finance called Harold Lovell, who now is asking to remove the top of the class for being dunce. Based on our individual and collective experiences, we would be gluttons for punishment if we were to ever allow this to happen. Despite every trial, in less than 4 years, under Gaston Brown and the Antigua-Barbuda Labour Party administration, our country has enjoyed and continues to enjoy economic growth. Growth that halted the decay in our economy, and growth which has set us upward on a course to prosperity. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party restored that value, bringing our nation back to its former glory. Work in progress. In 2016, we were the fastest growing economy in not just the OECS, but all of CARICOM, with an enviable growth rate of 6.5%. Last year, despite the hurricanes of September, we regained our position of being the largest economy in the OECS. In 2017, we also continued to register positive growth of 5.6%, notwithstanding the ravages of Hurricane Irma and its effect on our country. The UPB borrowed and borrowed and borrowed, and their borrowings of over more than $1 billion, including the soon-to-be-retired IMF debt of $320 million, strangled our economy and cramped our fiscal space. They defaulted on loan after loan after loan. Our nation became uncreditworthy, and creditors were hammering at our country's doors, the first of which was the IMF, mere days after the elections of June 2014. We in the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, we as Antiguans and Barbudans are proud that we've been able to reduce the mammoth IMF debt, and declare that within a matter of months, we'll retire in full this albatross placed around the heads, the necks, and the backs of Antiguans and Barbudans. By any standard, labor is better. And by any measure, this must be considered a momentous achievement for Antigua and Antiguans and Barbudans. In June of 2014, the entire country was on the brink of being plunged into darkness, as APUA owed WIOC almost $90 million. Another debt on our necks, on our backs, on our heads. No amount of credit, thanks, praise, or gratitude is too much to be heaped on the negotiating and financial prowess of our political leader and Prime Minister Gaston Brown. It was through his efforts as head of government that we were able not only to avoid the shutdown of national power facilities, but to transfer that burden, that debt, into now a positive situation where we, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, are the majority shareholders of West Indies Oil Company. And we did so without it costing the taxpayers of this country one, and I can't say red because red is a good color, 1 blue cent. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our firm ideology is based on empowerment. Something you have witnessed, you have lived, and experienced over the last 3.5 years in the most recent iteration. Empowering our business sector, empowering our young people, entrepreneurs, and empowering Antiguans and Barbudans in general continues to be the mission of this administration. In our manifesto, nothing changes. In fact, it is further highlighted, it is further accentuated, and becomes even more a pillar on which the next term of governance will be operated. We have set out in our manifesto, Agenda to 2023 and beyond, very practical programs, people-centered programs, and definitely this country will be the better for the implementation of the policies of your next administration after March 21st, 2018. It details clearly all we plan to do over the next 5 years and beyond, and how we will set the springboard for that great leap into the future. We repeat our pledge not to introduce or to reintroduce personal income tax. And because it's an era of fake news, and because I know I have a little influence of Spanish on my English where I speak fast, I want to repeat that and to do so slowly. We repeat our pledge not to introduce or reintroduce personal income tax. As we launch this manifesto, we pledge to the lowering of corporation tax to a mere 21%. I repeat, I see business leaders in the audience. We will not only continue to refuse personal income tax, but we will also impact the business community by lowering corporation tax to 21%. Together with you, my dear people of Antigua and Barbuda, at home and in the diaspora, our business sector, our international partners, our public service, we intend and commit to continue the job started of rebuilding Antigua and Barbuda into an economic powerhouse. We are committed to making Antigua and Barbuda better for good. God bless you. Welcome to this launch of our manifesto. And we look forward to the continuation of our partnership with the people in rebuilding Antigua and Barbuda for the benefit and good of all, generations unborn included. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for those remarks. Another record that the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party can be proud of is the empowerment of women. No other political organization in the history of Antigua and Barbuda can boast of placing competent and qualified women in some of the top positions in government. It is also at the forefront of educating women to take some of the top leading roles in our society. It is therefore my pleasure at this time to invite to the podium one of the most effective ministers in government of Antigua and Barbuda and candidate for the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party in the St. Mary's South constituency, the Honorable Samantha Marshall, to say a few words.
Good morning, one and all. Protocols having been observed, I greet you all at this exciting and pivotal time as we present our Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party plan for the further and future development of our beloved Antigua and Barbuda. Our manifesto highlights the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party is the party of equality. It reminds us that from our inception, we have strived to build a society in which the rights of all are respected and in which there is a meaningful place for everyone. As a female, I echo the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that we are the exception. I therefore stand before you as one of two exceptional female candidates on the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party ticket. While still a small number, it is indeed twice the amount offered by the United Progressive Party. It is not that women are not empowered by our party, but rather that not enough of us have come forward to serve. During the coming years, we will work arduously to encourage more women to join in our fight to make our nation stronger and greater. I am proud to declare that the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party believes in gender equality and in the rights of men and women to equal pay, equal access to jobs, equal qualification for promotion, and in respect for women in our society and in ending all forms of violence against them. As such, our manifesto reflects our commitment to strengthening legislation and punishments for violence against women. We see and describe women as the equals of men. Therefore, under Vision 2023 and beyond, women will be guaranteed equal pay for equal task, the right to promotion, and the equal opportunity to assume the highest offices in all sectors of our society. We must also protect our children. They are our future and hope for a brighter tomorrow. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party does not condone child abuse, and it must end, and it must end now. A new Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government will instruct the relevant ministries to collaboratively devise and implement a program, including the monitoring of and strengthening of existing legislation to end child abuse. We will also work proactively to tackle discrimination, remove barriers, and deliver dignity and empowerment to our differently abled people. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government has already ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Our next step will be to take the appropriate steps to ensure implementation of policies and plans that effectively integrate persons with disabilities into society. We are also concerned about our precious pensioners. They are the foundation of every current generation and still have a role to play in our economy as it continues to grow. They have endless knowledge and experiences that are truly invaluable. In Vision 2023 and beyond, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government will explore ways in which pensioners can remain a vibrant and active part of our society, thereby enabling them to impart their expansive knowledge to our children and our young people. These are not empty promises, such as touted by the United Progressive Party. our Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party administration decisively put an end to the UPP years of paying pensioners late. And this Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party team pledges to ensure and pursue policies that will strengthen the social security system to ensure it can meet its obligations when they are due. We are also deeply conscious that public sector workers bore the brunt of the burden associated with economic and financial ruin of our nation under the inept management of the United Progressive Party. Never in the history of our nation were public servants more tested and tried in their commitment to service. Though the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party was unable to repay them for their duty, patience, and diligence during the difficult period, we recognize that this situation must come to an end. Obligations to public servants must be and will be met to the best of the government's ability. While full negotiations take time, our plan is to pay an interim increase of 5% of basic salary for public servants that was effective January 1st of this year, without prejudice to the outcome of the negotiations. Our efforts, of course, will not end there. Our vision also aims at supporting public servants through a number of special programs and initiatives, to include a $10,000 housing grant for public servants to assist with the down payment on the purchase price of a home from National Housing and Urban Renewal Company. The provision of vehicle concessions, where once every 5 years, public servants will receive a waiver between 50 to 100% of import duty on new and used vehicles. And the enabling of priority access to homes provided through the National Housing and Urban Renewal Company for teachers, nurses, members of the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, Office of the National Drug Control Policy, and the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government is committed to the protection of our women, our children, and our elderly. We are determined to repay our public servants for their patience, duty, and hard work during the years of neglect on the United Progressive Party. In whole, we are committed to continuing the rebuilding of our nation as we have already started over the past 4 years. We look forward to the nation's support in making these plans a reality, because together we can make Antigua and Barbuda better for good. I thank you.
Yeah. We thank the candidate for St. Mary's South, Samantha Marshall, for her remarks. There is no denial or rebuttal that the Antigua-Barbuda Labour Party is unmatched, with members who are qualified, intelligent, experienced, and filled with youth. Just take a slow, sweeping glance from your left to your right. And you are free to tell me, where else in Antigua and Barbuda can you find another slate of candidates who possess scores of years of experience, who are qualified, who are young, and who are dedicated, and someone said who are good-looking? The health sector in our country preceding 2014 was on autopilot. In just 3.5 years, the health sector in Antigua and Barbuda is rated as the best in the Eastern Caribbean. The man who is tasked in turning that sector around is the Honorable Malwin Joseph. And words like experience, intelligent, and dedicated to duty are words that are associated with him. It is therefore my pleasure at this time to invite the Honorable Malwin Joseph to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Prime Minister, my colleague candidates, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Honorable Johnny St. Luce, the Honorable Hugh Marshall, and I must make special mention of Johnny St. Luce because he was once my boss as a junior minister in the Ministry of Finance. I'd like to recognize especially the diplomats, the ambassadors who represent the People's Republic of China, Cuba, and Venezuela. I'd also like to say that it's an honor for me to stand before you today. I'm always reminded that we serve the people of Antigua and Barbuda, and whatever we do, we must account to you. And it is good that we have this type of forum where you can hear of what we have accomplished and what we intend to do in the future. Between 1984 and now, I have proudly served 3 ABLP prime ministers in various capacities. Both Sir Cornwall Bird and Sir Lester Bird brought skills and visions to the role of prime minister relevant to their time. Given today's global reality in which finance plays a determining role in global relations, the nation of Antigua and Barbuda is fortunate to have Gaston Brown as our present Prime Minister. He has brought considerable knowledge to the leadership of government as a banker and businessman, masterfully handling the chaos that was the state of our economy in the wake of the colossal mismanagement by the United Progressive Party. Under his leadership, we have halted our nation's plunge into the darkness of bankruptcy and absolute economic ruin. Over the last 3+ years, I've been privileged to serve as the nation's Minister of Health and the Environment. During this time, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party has accomplished much in healthcare. 10 years of UPP's incompetence produced a story of horror in healthcare service of Antigua and Barbuda. Mount St. John had no working diagnostic equipment. There was a scarcity of important drugs and insufficient medical personnel. Surgeries were often aborted. Today, there is no backlog in surgery at the Mount St. John. Many persons died for lack of care, drugs, and the absence of specialist attention. Let me remind this nation, there was one gentleman by the name of Chester Clark who went 3 times to the doors of the Mount St. John, was turned away 3 times, and on the 3rd occasion, he dropped dead about 50 yards from the hospital's door. That will never happen under the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. Thanks to the hard work of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party administration, in less than 4 years, the situation has vastly improved. Prime Minister Gaston Brown, as Finance Minister, never hesitated to find the money for the health care of our nation. As I stand here, I calculate that he has made available approximately $40 million to upgrade the hospital and secure the necessary specialists. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government acquired state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment to deliver first-world health care that the residents of our nation have a right to expect, and what they deserve. We deserve no less. Mount St. John's grew from a hospital that could not treat even basic ailments to one which now conducts successfully kidney transplants. When the cabinet approved the program of kidney transplant, many people said we were overambitious. We have successfully completed 6 kidney transplants, and one of those transplants was made in the program of the Global Kidney Exchange. And in the entire global community, there have been 5 such transplants in that exchange, 4 in the United States and 1 in Antigua Barbuda. We now undertake implants of pacemakers for heart conditions, provides both chemotherapy and radiology treatment for cancer patients in partnership with the Cancer Center. No longer do we have to send people abroad, whether it's in the United States, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Trinidad, or Barbados. It's all done right here in Antigua and Barbuda, under the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. We provide specialist treatment in a range of services, both surgical and otherwise, through arrangements with doctors from the United Kingdom. In that arrangement, we have a 10-year arrangement where we have been able to secure the services of neurologists and neurosurgeons who visit Antigua and Barbuda on a quarterly basis to provide these services. And we have engaged in an eye program that has been more than successful. We have restored more than 1,500 persons. We have restored their sights in operations for cataracts and pterygium surgery. And here I would wish to thank, in particular, the government of Venezuela and the government of the People's Republic of China. And at this juncture, I take the opportunity to announce that the People's Republic of China will soon have a team again in Antigua and Barbuda to undertake further surgeries within the next 30 to 45 days. Antigua and Barbuda is also now amongst a few countries in the world that has been validated by the World Health Organization for the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, AIDS, and syphilis. To be specific, there are only 7 countries in the world that have received such a validation. Antigua is one of those 7. We do not intend to rest on our laurels. We want nothing less than developed countries' standards for the health care that we provide for our people. We will therefore vigorously implement many healthcare developments as part of our Vision 2023 and beyond. Our leader will deal fully with our plans when he launches the manifesto in a few minutes. However, I am moved to share this with you. Just yesterday, we commissioned another 6 pieces of equipment to expand our dialysis unit by 50%. In 2 years, we anticipate that the dialysis unit will be located in what is now the old Edwards Ward, and in that facility, we will not only provide dialysis treatment, but it will become the place where renal surgeries are undertaken to accommodate the global program that we have embarked upon. And in the place of the dialysis unit that will be vacated, we will establish our cardiology unit in Antigua and Barbuda, where we intend to do all surgeries, including open heart surgery. I would simply say now that good health care of our people, young and old and middle-aged, and access to medical care and medicines is central to the fundamental beliefs of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. Providing universal health care for all, based on needs, is the galvanizing motivation of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government. We plan to introduce a comprehensive national health scheme that provides free health care for all in our beloved nation. Our vision is designed to erase the disgraceful neglect of our healthcare sector under the United Progressive Party leadership, and for Antigua and Barbuda to become a leading standard for health and nutrition in the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, Vision 2023 and beyond is a blueprint, or might I say more politically correct, is a red print for the future, covering all aspects of our national development. I thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Minister Malwin Joseph, for those words. Comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have had the distinct pleasure of serving 3 prime ministers: the Honorable Celeste Byrd, the Honorable Baldwin Spencer, and now the Honorable Gaston Brown. And I in no way at this time wish to diminish the remarkable contributions of Celeste Byrd or the Honorable Baldwin Spencer, as they both have their special qualities and dedication to nation building and service to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. However, there is no other Prime Minister that I have had the pleasure to serve who can compare to the Honorable Gaston Brown. Our next speaker can walk barefoot and play dominoes with the grassroots people. He can do this on a Monday. Then on a Tuesday, he can sit with kings in the Middle East and have tea with prime ministers and presidents in Europe. On a Wednesday, he can cry with a devastated people in Barbuda and comfort a grieving family. On a Thursday, he can go head to head with any investor who tried to usurp the laws of Antigua and Barbuda. On a Friday, he can negotiate an agreement in the interest of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. I can find examples for Saturdays and Sundays too. But I will not bore you, because we know that Prime Minister Gaston Brown works 7 days a week, and if possible, 24 or 25 hours per day. Prime Minister Gaston Brown is a true leader who leads from the front, with an unmatched love and passion for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. It is therefore my pleasure to serve and to invite him at this time. Prime Minister, the Honorable Gaston Brown, and the Chairman of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, to present a preview of Manifesto 2018.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremony. I thank you for your extremely kind words. I acknowledge all of my colleague candidates, to include Sir Robin Yearwood, and all the other members here today. I see right before me His Excellency Sir John St. Luce, Hugh Marshall Sr., members of the Diplomatic Corps, to include Ambassador Wang, distinguished members of the business community, to include Mr. Ewart Hani and others. Comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure to be a part of this Manifesto launch. I recognize that the intention was for me to give a written speech, but I will speak to you from the heart. Because at the end of the day, we have a plethora of plans for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And as soon as these plans are hatched, we document them. In fact, for us, we do not believe in the mundane planning process in which you develop 20-year plans. First of all, they take approximately 24 to 36 months to be completed. And by the time they are written, they are outdated. So we have projectized the planning process, and we have developed projects and programs for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. In fact, almost invariably on a weekly basis, within the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, we look at various initiatives. Some of them start with a very simple idea, end up to be very complex projects and programs that would have benefited the people of Antigua and Barbuda. But almost invariably, we scan the entire economy. We look at gaps within the various sectors and devise strategies to fill those gaps. The 2018 Manifesto would have looked at a number of initiatives that are designed to improve the living standards of the people of Antigua and Barbuda, to ensure that we grow the economy, expand the economy, and to put the people of Antigua and Barbuda to work. Clearly, we'd have seen a reduction in the amount of employment during the 10 years of the UPP by about 10,000 workers. Within the last 3.5 years, we have put over 6,000 people back to work. And we recognize that there are still a number of individuals who are in need of employment. But it would have been unreasonable for anyone to have felt that we would be able to create 10,000 jobs in 3 years. But the fact that we've created over 6,000 jobs in 3 years, 3.5 years, that in itself is extremely impressive. But what is important at this point is to continue that momentum so that within the next 12 to 24 months, we can literally put every single Antiguan and Barbudan, every single resident, every citizen who is available to work, to put them back to work. Now, in order to have a vibrant economy, it is also important for us to have a vibrant private sector. So we recognize that we must continue to incentivize the private sector. And one of the initiatives in our manifesto is to reduce the corporate income tax, to reduce it from 25% down to 20% in the first instance. In fact, there will be scope for further reductions. But as a responsible government, we have to make sure that we do not reduce the tax rate too fast, too soon, because that in itself could create a crisis. We recognize too that there are a number of private businesses that have not fully recovered from disaster that ruled this country between 2004 and 2010. So what we have decided to do is to put together a business recovery package, a bailout package for those companies, those joint ventures, those partnerships, those sole traders who would have experienced difficulties during that period of time. So my government will undertake to assume a number of their bad loans, up to 75% of the value of the security. And what that will do is that it will ensure the continuity of the business. It will ensure continuity of employment. And at the same time, it will assist the domestic banks in particular to clean up their loan books. Because what we recognize is that most of these bad loans reside within the domestic commercial banking system. And we want to make sure that we continue to have very strong and profitable banks in this country. So the government will literally step in, assume their loans up to 75% of the value of their collateral. And we will assume the repayments so that the businesses can continue to focus on their operations and to ensure expansion and continued provision of employment for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. But we recognize too that in order to achieve that ultimate objective of transforming Antigua and Barbuda into an economic powerhouse, that we must have an entrepreneurial government and that we must expand entrepreneurship nationally. So the infrastructure that we have put in place is that we have created what is called the Entrepreneurial Development Fund, the EDF, which will be a program designed to provide funding for entrepreneurs. It will be operated primarily by the Investment Authority and managed by the Antigua and Barbuda Development Bank. We have already submitted $1 million to start that program, and we have put infrastructure in place to provide funding in the amount of $3 million annually to that fund. We have introduced a 5% or 5-cent tax on incoming calls. It means, therefore, that we'll raise about $3 million annually. But from time to time, we will use proceeds from the CIP program to increase the amounts that will be available to entrepreneurs. And we are asking individuals in the society, especially in the productive sectors, to avail themselves of those opportunities. It is very important that you seize these opportunities. Those of you who are involved in the small hotel sector, those of you who are involved in agriculture, in manufacturing, in informatics, those are the priority areas that we would like to fund in order to see more robust business activity within the shores of Antigua and Barbuda. We will also make land available to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, to entrepreneurs in particular, at a developmental rate of $3 per square foot. I repeat, $3 per square foot. We'll go further. There are a number of areas in which we will create beach and waterfront land. So, for example, the Shell Beach area, in which the road is actually located right on the shoreline. We will move that road inwards to create 16 acres of land. And we'll create half-acre lots and acre lots that will be made available to Antiguans and Barbudans to pursue small bed and breakfasts, Airbnb properties, so that you too could participate in the tourism gains. And we will make those land available at a concessional rate. We'll make sure that they are affordable, so that whatever funds that you have, you can concentrate on utilizing the proceeds primarily for construction purposes to build the properties. But we'll not stop there. Those properties will be listed under our CIP program, so that you can also utilize the CIP program to get financing for construction purposes. All that is required is the initial mobilization capital and the opportunity, the willingness, the skills to run the project, and I'm quite sure that initiative will create significant opportunities for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So that program is one of the most significant programs that will roll out in terms of promoting business entrepreneurship. But outside of that, we expect Antiguans and Barbudans, generally speaking, to become more entrepreneurial, to be involved in more businesses, and not only in the traditional sectors, but even in the creative sector, creative arts, performing arts, the visual arts. We expect you to utilize your skills and to turn those skills into cash. We expect, for example, our soca artists, for them to now focus on making music that could travel outside of Antigua and Barbuda. Music that is exportable, not to cater exclusively for the domestic market. We must make sure that we monetize our skills, our talents, and the government will also provide the framework to facilitate the monetization of these talents. My colleague minister, the Minister of Health, would have spoken extensively about our achievements in healthcare. So I do not need to rehash those issues, but to say that healthcare and education, they are the cornerstones of our developmental strategy. But it is important that we earn a significant amount of money so that we can fund healthcare and education. The reality is, healthcare takes an enormous amount of money. Education, similarly. As we embark on our thrust to have the 4th landed campus of the University of the West Indies here in Antigua and Barbuda, at the Five Islands campus, it will take tens of millions of dollars to operate that facility. It means, therefore, that we have to grow and expand the country's economy rapidly to generate sufficient revenue in order to meet our obligations. Ultimately, we are seeking to make this country an economic powerhouse in the Caribbean. But in order to be an economic powerhouse, we must have first world healthcare standards. We must have at least one university, and you will be getting a university. We will continue to attract more medical schools. Just recently, we added the Atlantic Medical School, which is operating out of the George Ryan Building on Newgate Street. And we expect to attract more medical schools as we seek to diversify our country's economy. That diversification will not be limited to educational services, but to healthcare services as well. You would note that already we have done our first kidney transplant on a Filipino, which means that we are now poised to export medical services. And we are exploring other opportunities to include modern, state-of-the-art cancer care treatment, stem cell treatment, and other advanced medical treatment, not only for the benefit of the people of Antigua and Barbuda, but also for exportation. We believe that Barbuda in particular, based on its pristine environment and the fact that it will become the first totally green island in the Caribbean, is well poised to deliver medical tourism. So we're pursuing a project to establish a medical tourism facility in Barbuda that will provide advanced health care for the people of Antigua and Barbuda and for exportation to the world. And you can be sure too that even in terms of our own medical health care facilities, before the end of this year, we will also utilize drone technology to deliver medicines to homes to include individuals living in Barbuda. We will also introduce additional remote medical equipment so that diagnostic studies could be done using remote technology, internet technology. And in terms of broadband, we intend to partner with the other telecommunications providers immediately after the next general elections to invest at least $100 million United States dollars to improve our broadband services. And let us not forget that today, APUA is offering 10 megs of broadband for $75, the cheapest and the fastest in the Caribbean. So already the service is here. But unfortunately, the other two providers, they do not have the service because they're using a wireless service that is slow. So we'll bring them to the table after the next general elections and to put a package together in which we could have the universal provision of broadband services to all Antiguans and Barbudans. As I said to you, there is every single sector that will be impacted as a result of this Vision 2023. And we've said 2023 because we do not believe in those long-term mundane plans. Just to repeat, by the time you complete writing them, they're redundant. So, insofar as we're concerned, my government is concerned, we are doing things that will create real value for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. You have an entrepreneurial government, a government that believes in value creation, and value creation for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. When we purchased the West Indies Oil Company, we had the people of Antigua and Barbuda in mind, not ourselves. And let us face it, we utilized private capital to purchase West Indies Oil Company. It meant that the shareholding could have gone to the private sector. We said no. We're doing this for the collective benefit of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And that is real commitment. So when people speak about corruption and speculate about corruption, West Indies Oil Company represented the best opportunity for my cabinet members, to include myself, to enrich ourselves, because we're using private capital. But we said no, we did it for the benefit of the people. There are several other projects that we have invested in, and again, we're doing so exclusively for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. You would note that we have invested in several hotel properties. So for example, whereas Sunwing is presently expanding the old Royal Antiguan Hotel at a cost of about $100 million US, they will be building a second resort very shortly, commencing from 2019, in conjunction or in partnership with the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda will have a stake of about 16% in that new hotel. The Royal Antiguan is expected to accommodate an additional 50,000 tourists commencing from 2019. 50,000. And this year is expected to be yet another record year in terms of overnight arrivals. We expect to hit the 300,000 mark this year for the first time in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. And let me remind you that in 2016, we had 267,000 stayover arrivals. The first time in the history of the country would have had so many arrivals in a given calendar year. So those who speak about stagnation within the industry, I say to them that the stagnation happened under them. Today, we are making progress, and we are building increased capacity to ensure that we continue to grow and expand our tourism product. There are many hotels that are being built. There are many hotels to come. You would have heard about them time and time again, and these are not idle promises. These are not projects in the pipe. Many of them are projects that are happening presently. The Royalton that I just spoke about, the Marriott. In fact, there will be a second Marriott in which construction will start within 60 days at the VC Bird International Airport. So we're attracting investments. And interestingly, yesterday, as a result of a visit that I made to the Middle East recently, we had a visit from a billionaire. And he indicated to us that he was so excited about the prospects of doing business in Antigua and Barbuda that he has personally committed to spending in the region of about 500 million US dollars in this country. And I know that there are times when politicians stand before you and they say things that are not true. But I say to you, this is not a made-up story. That individual met with myself, Ambassador Bustani, and Ambassador Brian Stewart-Young. And we're pretty confident that in the upcoming months, you'll see a major or several major investments rolled out as a result of that visit. And one of the reasons why Antigua and Barbuda is so successful and has been able to attract these investments is because you have a very active government. We are not sitting back and wait for investments to come to us. We are actively seeking audiences with individuals who can make a difference in this country. We are meeting with heads of governments. We're meeting with very powerful private entities. We're engaging them. And I think that we have a great product here in Antigua and Barbuda, and we have been selling that product effectively. So you can be assured that the future of Antigua and Barbuda is well assured. But we do recognize that we have to continue to diversify our country's economy. As the saying goes, we cannot put all our eggs in one basket. So as a result, we'll be diversifying into cryptocurrencies. And very shortly, we will establish the legal and legislative framework for the establishment of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies to include a cryptocurrency exchange. I want you to understand too that your government is at the cutting edge of technology. There is no issue, no initiative that is happening globally that Antigua and Barbuda is not a part of. So whereas other countries are merely flippantly speaking about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, we are actually presently developing the framework to facilitate it. And we have a number of players to participate in that area, to include Calvinia. In fact, we have recently appointed him as an envoy specifically to develop that industry here in Antigua and Barbuda. And he is investing 25 million United States dollars in a facility at Woods. This is a project that is taking place. Many of you would have seen a 5-story building next to Woods that is being constructed. That will be the headquarters for this particular program. So these are not just mere promises. These are things that are happening within the country's economy. And that is why we could come to you early and to ask you to vote for us, to give us 5 more years, to ensure continuity, to ensure stability, because we know that we have done the work. And we know too that if we were to wait for another 1 year, then clearly the opposition would become even more rabid. And we recognize too that they have certain vulnerabilities, and we exploited them. So while they were telling the nation that they were ready to govern, it is obvious that they weren't. They are now saying that by calling the elections early, that it was unfair. Now, what if there was a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister and the government fell? What would they have said to the people of Antigua and Barbuda? They're not ready? It is well known, politics 101, that any opposition that is serious about governance should be a government in waiting and should always be in a state of readiness. But I come back now to the issue of diversification. In the agricultural sector, we will make significant investments in that sector. You want to ensure food sovereignty and food security. Make sure that we could feed ourselves, to reduce the amount of foreign exchange leakage, and to ensure that there are linkages with other sectors, especially the tourism sector. We also want farming to be seen as a business. And that is why we established the Entrepreneurial Development Fund as well, so that our farmers could get the necessary funding to establish smart farms. I emphasize, smart farms. Farming need not be as labor intensive as it is today. But we recognize that many of our farmers do not have access to the necessary funding. We now have the mechanism in place to provide you with funding. And we ask the farmers to avail themselves of the framework, the various programs that we've put in place to facilitate them. We will continue to give them long leases. So this idea, for example, that our opponents are saying that they're going to offer long leases, that is something that we're now doing routinely. So in other words, their offer to the people of Antigua and Barbuda is redundant. Those farmers who have not availed themselves of the long leases, we ask them to do so, to ensure security of tenure with the land, so that there is no potential displacement now or in the near future. In the area of housing, notwithstanding the fact that we did not complete the 500 homes within the specified period of 500 days, we have made significant progress. And when you looked at the fact that we inherited an empty treasury with a plethora of problems to resolve, it is to our credit that we have been building over 360 homes. At the 3 sites, there are 360 homes being constructed. As you know, the Dredge Bay site was completed. All the homes are sold, all. And outside of that, we would have built close to another 40 homes on individual lots throughout various communities. So by the end of this year, we would have completed at least 500 homes. But the 500 homes will not stop there, because at the end of the day, we are embarking on an urban renewal program. We want to make sure that we get rid of all of the dilapidated housing in this country. So, after the next general elections, we will step up and advance the home construction. We will also introduce a new product, a social housing initiative. That's another program I've heard them copying, saying that they're going to introduce social housing to include rent-to-own. That is our initiative. And that is why they do not have a manifesto as yet, because they're waiting to cog. And I guarantee you, mark my word, you will see a number of initiatives in our manifesto literally replicated in the UPP's manifesto. Mark my word. They may have some fancy acronyms such as YES and LEAP and REAP, but at the end of the day, it's cog de cog. So there will also be social housing, because we do recognize that the initial set of homes that we built, that they are beyond the means of some people. We accept. But we did not want to start with social housing. We started with middle-class housing for the benefit of the poor. Because what we're doing is that we are transitioning the poor into the middle class. And if we had started with social housing, the discussion today would have been different. So we start good, right at the top, and then we'll come in the middle now to make sure that we provide housing for all. But the program goes further. We have what is called the Happy Initiative, in which we provide grants up to $20,000. In fact, I believe there one or two may have gotten up to $30,000 to rebuild their homes. This is a Karen administration. And I want to tell you that I'm very proud to have had a team of competent men and one woman. Individuals who worked very hard, very long hours. And we looked at all sectors, we looked at all of the ills, and almost on a weekly basis, we would have come up with strategies to resolve those problems. All of the problems that exist today, they were created by a previous administration. All my government has been doing for the last 3.5 years is to resolve problems. So when they speak about the issue of inadequate water supply, that is something that we inherited. So whereas we do not accept blame, we have taken responsibility. And we would have constructed 2 reverse osmosis plants to date. And we can all agree that the water problem has been significantly resolved. But we will not stop there. We will construct this year a 3rd reverse osmosis plant. And one of the reasons why we will do so is because we want to increase the water supply to our farmers. We will provide them with a better rate so that they can have more accessibility to water to grow their crops. And we recognize too that even within the small hotel sector, that we have to incentivize them, those small hotel properties. I know that we took a policy decision before to offer a reduced rate in electricity. I just reminded Sir Robin Yearwood, and I've asked him to implement it immediately. We're not waiting until after elections. So instructions have been given to work with those small hotel properties. And we recognize too that in that critical sector, that many of them ended up with bad loans. Some of them are about to lose their properties. Why should we as a government sit back and allow them to lose their properties? That is why I said earlier that we will have a bailout program to bail them out. And you know what will happen? I'm quite sure some of them may be comrades, some of them will be UPP supporters, but they will not look at the UPP supporters who are helping. They may pick out 1 or 2 comrades and cry corruption. But that will not deter us. At the end of the day, they are all Antiguans and Barbudans. Now I want to turn to the issue of electricity, which has been a difficult problem for developing countries globally, especially in the Caribbean. High utility rates are not unusual to this region, but it is a structural problem. It's not a case of price gouging, as some would want you to think. And the only way we could reduce our cost of electricity on a sustainable basis is to reduce the cost of electricity. We also need to ensure predictability, stability, rather than subjecting the country to the vagaries of oil prices. So, we have been investing in green energy. So far, we have 10 megs of solar energy. We will introduce another 10 megs, a combination system of solar voltaic and wind, at a cost of $40 million. By the way, the contracts have been issued already, signed, sealed, and delivered. The funding is in place. The funding came from the Abu Dhabi Investment Fund. So these are not kind of in the pie promises. These are real, tangible projects that are taking place real time. But I could not even reduce it because of the structure of the pricing. And the point is here too, there are several components that contribute to the cost of electricity. It is not just the cost of oil. There are other fixed costs associated with the cost of producing electricity. So ultimately, the only sustainable way of reducing electricity, or the price of electricity, is by reducing the cost of production of energy. There is no other way, and I say to you, let no one tell you otherwise. And we are giving you a commitment that later this year, we'll make an adjustment to the fuel variation costs and reduce the price of electricity. Now, they also speak about cost of living. That is a very difficult quantity to control because Antigua and Barbuda is an open economy. It means, therefore, that what we have within the country is what you call import push inflation. But contrary to what they have said, the IMF and other international and regional organizations have indicated that inflation in this country is at about 1.2% annually, which is extremely low compared to other countries. We do accept that for certain items, that would have seen an increase. But those increase in prices are generally outside of the scope of any government. So we recognize that what we could do is to increase your income. And that is why we gave a 5% interim increase to public servants. So that since we came to government in June of 2014, when you have added the inflation, and by the way, 1 year we saw a nominal reduction in prices of minus 1%, the overall inflation would have been no more than about 3.5%. So with that 5% that we gave as an interim, it would have accounted for the inflation that would have occurred during the governance of my government, plus a small nominal increase. That is just an interim. We're committed to giving more because we want to increase incomes. We want to improve the living standards of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And I want to thank the public servants for the forbearance that they have shown over the years. The reality is, there are some who, for political reasons, who would want you to make unreasonable demands. But all I say to you is that you don't have to push my government for an increase. You don't have to push my government for a reasonable increase. But if you push us for an increase that we cannot afford, then that is pointless. So those who are seeking to create mayhem within the country on the eve of general elections, I ask you to resist them and to understand that you have a government that will stand with you, that will empower you, and will give you sustaining increases during the next few years. Now, I could go on, but clearly, I'm sure you're getting tired now. And even our manifesto, we could not have covered all of the issues. So, in as much as all the issues were not exhausted within the manifesto, I want to assure you that we have plans for every single sector of the country's economy. In healthcare, in education. In education, we'll continue to expand and renew the secondary school plant as well as the primary school plant. For this term, we will build at least one new secondary school. That is our commitment to you. We'll make sure that we do all we can to reduce prices. We'll continue to provide employment, attract investments, put you back to work, to make sure that Antiguans and Barbudans enjoy living standards that is second to none. I close this afternoon by thanking you for coming out in your numbers. I say to you today that this is a government that is committed to your empowerment. We are making Antigua and Barbuda better for the good of all. And we are doing so in an equitable way, ensuring that every single resident, every citizen gets a piece of the pie. So those who are seeking to get a disproportionate piece of the pie and may feel disenchanted by my government or about my government, I say to you that we had other priorities. We had the working class to look after. We had to put them to work. We had to fix our roads. As you know, we have $250 million programmed to fix our roads this year. We had to fix the water problem, the electricity problem. We had to fix health care. We had to repay the IMF. And you would note from the previous speakers that we have reduced that loan of $320 million, in which the UPB did not pay 1 red cent. We have reduced it down to $318 million. And on Tuesday, in a matter of 2 working days, we'll pay another $8 million. So by Tuesday, the loan will be reduced to $10 million. One final point I would like to make is that after we have retired the IMF loan, we know that there are a number of contractors, a number of suppliers who supplied goods and services to the government of Antigua and Barbuda, especially during the period between 2004 and 2014, who have not been paid. We had other priorities, but I say to you, we will issue a bond. Those debts that are legitimate, we will honor those debts. and we will issue a bond and to make sure that you get sustaining payments going forward. So we also have something in place for suppliers. Finally, and this is final, I thank you very much for coming. And on the 21st, make sure you do the right thing and vote Labour.
Prime Minister and political leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. Ladies and gentlemen, we will invite our candidates to come and greet you, and Prime Minister Gaston Brown will sign a few copies of the manifesto, and our ushers will also try to ensure that everyone in this room has a copy. Thank you very much for coming, ladies and gentlemen, and do enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Good day.